What if I told you that the moment you stop chasing, they start remembering? The second you detach, you become unforgettable. Most people will never grasp this. They panic, they beg, they plead, thinking words will change someone's mind. But words don't create impact. Absence does. The one who walks away in silence, who vanishes without explanation, becomes a mystery that lingers in the mind. They become the unanswered question, the unfinished story, the thought that refuses to fade. This is why heartbreak isn't just about loss. It's a test. A test of who you are when everything is taken from you. Weak people crumble. They let their emotions control them. They drown in self-pity, clinging to false hope, waiting for a message that never comes. But the one who understands power does something different. They do the one thing that disrupts the entire game. They disappear. No chasing, no pleading, no explaining, because they know a truth most ignore. The one who is least attached holds the most power. Think of fire. The more you blow on it, the bigger it grows. But take away its air, and it dies. Attention is fuel. The moment you take it away, you shift the balance of power. You become a presence in their absence, the one they can't shake off. If you've ever been left wondering why they walked away, questioning everything, feeling like you weren't enough, understand this: your worth isn't proven by convincing someone to stay. It's proven by your ability to walk away with your dignity intact. This isn't about playing games. It's not about manipulation. It's about becoming the kind of person they have to regret losing. Not because you tricked them, but because you became so powerful and disciplined that their only choice is to remember you, to feel your absence like a missing piece they can't replace. But this is not for the weak. It's not for those looking for shortcuts. This is for the one who is ready to transform, to become untouchable, to be the one they never forget. Now, here's the most important part. If you disappear but don't improve, they will forget you. But if you use that time to build yourself, to evolve into something greater, they won't just remember you, they will regret ever losing you. So, are you ready for that kind of power? If you are, stay with me till the end, because by the time this is over, you'll have something more valuable than their regret. You'll have self-mastery. And once you have that, you win. Let the fire burn. Don't put it out. When they walk away, it feels like the ground has been ripped from beneath you. The texts stop, the calls go unanswered. They are gone, and all you're left with is silence. Your mind spirals, replaying every moment, every word, searching for the mistake that pushed them away. You wonder if they're thinking about you, if they miss you, if they will ever come back. But let me tell you something, none of that matters. Most people break at this stage. They chase, they beg, they send long, desperate messages hoping to change the outcome. But all they do is prove the other person right, because nothing is more unattractive than someone who has lost control. The moment you try to convince them to stay, you shrink in their eyes. You tell them, without words, that you need them more than they need you. And in that moment, the balance shifts. They have power, and you do not. But those who understand their worth do the opposite. They don't beg, they don't explain, they don't seek closure. They accept reality for what it is. When a fire is burning out of control, most people try to put it out. They panic, they grab whatever they can, hoping to stop the destruction. But a strong person, one who understands power, lets the fire burn. They know that in the ashes, something new can rise. This is where most fail. They try to smother their pain, drown it in distractions, chase after the one who left, thinking that if they just say the right thing or do the right thing, everything will go back to the way it was. But here's the truth. Nothing goes back to the way it was. Trying to hold on to something that is already gone is like grabbing a handful of sand. The tighter you grip, the more it slips through your fingers. You don't hold on, you let go. Because true strength is not in chasing, it is in walking away. And something interesting happens in that silence. They notice. They expect you to fall apart. They expect you to chase, to beg, to prove that losing them has shattered you. But when you don't, when you disappear, when you become a blank space instead of a desperate presence, that's when the questions start creeping into their mind. Why aren't you reaching out? Why aren't you fighting for them? Why does it feel like you're the one who left? And that uncertainty is what plants the first seed of regret. Most will never reach this point. They will fold under their emotions. They will act on impulse instead of strategy. But those who master themselves, who embrace the silence instead of fearing it, become unforgettable. Because people don't remember those who beg, they remember those who walk away without a single word. What will you do? Will you be like the rest? Or will you become something greater? Rise from the ashes or stay buried? Something inside you has to die. The version of you that needed them, the version that sought validation, that over-explained, that tried to prove their worth. That person is gone, and from their ashes, a stronger, bolder, more disciplined version of you must rise. Because here's the truth. This pain, this loss, is not the end of you. It is the beginning of your rebirth. Pain is a catalyst. Most people run from it. They numb it with distractions, actions, drinking, scrolling endlessly on their phones, chasing quick dopamine hits to fill the void. They avoid sitting with their suffering, hoping that if they ignore it long enough, it will fade. But those who understand true power do the opposite. They welcome the pain. They let it cut through them. They do not flinch. They do not resist, because they know something most people never will. Suffering is the fire that forges strength. Think of a sword. Before it becomes unbreakable, it must first be thrust into fire, hammered and folded over and over again. Without that process, it remains weak and unfinished. The same is true for you. Every great warrior has been broken at some point. Every legend has tasted defeat. But the difference between the weak and the strong is simple. Some stay broken, others use the pain to rebuild. This moment right now is your test. Will you let the weight of your emotions crush you? Will you drown in self-pity, replaying memories of what once was, asking questions that have no answers? Or will you rise stronger than before? This is what the Stoics call amor fati, to love one's fate, not to resist it, not to wish it were different, but to embrace it fully. Because what happened was meant to happen. It was necessary for your growth. It was the exact storm required to shatter the weak parts of you and expose the unbreakable core within. And once you accept this truth, you become unstoppable. The moment you stop fighting reality, the moment you stop asking, why did this happen to me, and start saying, this happened for me, you take back control. And here's something most people don't realize. They expect you to be shattered. They expect you to drown in your emotions, to linger in heartbreak, to be another person who couldn't handle loss. But you will prove them wrong. You will use this pain, sharpen it into discipline, and emerge as someone they no longer recognize, someone so focused, so powerful, so indifferent that they won't just regret leaving. You will make them question if they ever really knew you at all. Let this be the moment where everything changes, because the person who emerges from this fire will not be the same. Silence holds more power than words. Most people don't realize the invisible chains that keep them bound, the need for validation, the obsession with closure, the desperate hope that maybe, just maybe, they'll change their mind. But here's the truth. A person who depends on someone else for their emotional stability is not free. They are a prisoner. The moment you allow someone to dictate your inner peace, you've already lost. Think about it. How much time have you wasted checking their social media, overanalyzing old conversations, or wondering what they're thinking? How many nights have you spent replaying memories, hoping for some kind of sign? But what if I told you that the more emotionally dependent you are on them, the more they are repelled by you? Because deep down, people don't want to be the center of your world. They want to enter a world that already exists, with or without them. This is where discipline becomes your greatest weapon. Discipline over your thoughts, your actions, your emotions. Discipline over yourself. It means no more checking their online status, no more accidental run-ins, no more writing unsent messages hoping they'll feel the weight of your silence. It means becoming ruthless with your mind, recognizing when weakness creeps in and shutting it down before it takes root. Because emotional control is power. Look at the great warriors, the leaders. What separates them from the rest? Control. Weak people let their emotions dictate their actions. They react out of desperation, anger, fear. They act before they think, and that is why they lose. But those who understand real strength do the opposite. They feel everything, but they are ruled by nothing. There's an old saying, a lion doesn't lose sleep over the opinions of sheep. The same applies here. When you master yourself, you become untouchable. You become the one people can't shake, because when you no longer seek validation, when you no longer crave approval, you become dangerous. And the irony? The moment you detach is the moment they start to notice. Because silence isn't just the absence of words, it's the presence of power. Silence makes people wonder. It creates questions they can't answer. And nothing is more unsettling than an unanswered question. So, from this moment forward, your emotions serve you, not the other way around. You will not let sadness consume you. You will not allow loneliness to dictate your decisions. You will not seek comfort in places that drain your power. Instead, you will rise. You will become the architect of your own fate. And when they finally look back, searching for the person they left behind, they will realize one thing. That person no longer exists. Silence is a weapon. Use it wisely. Most people don't have the strength to be silent. They crave closure. They seek validation. They fear being forgotten. But those who understand power disappear, not as a game, not to manipulate, but because they understand the law of detachment. When something no longer serves them, they walk away without a second thought. This is the foundation of no contact, a rule that weak people break, but strong ones master. No texts, no calls, no birthday messages, no checking their social media, no indirect signals that show emotional attachment. You remove yourself completely, and in that sudden absence, a void is created. People expect you to chase, they expect you to reach out, to fight for them, to seek closure. They expect to see signs that they still have control over you. But when you give them the opposite, when you vanish, when you remain silent, they start to question everything. Why aren't you reacting? Why aren't you trying to fix things? Why have you gone completely cold? That uncertainty, that silence, is far more powerful than any words you could say. Psychologically, humans only value what they might lose forever. The moment you remove yourself, you force them to feel that loss. They start to wonder if they made a mistake, if you've moved on, if someone else has replaced them. Because deep down, nothing haunts a person more than someone they can no longer control. But this only works if you truly embrace detachment. No contact is not a waiting game. It's not a strategy to get them back. It's a commitment to yourself. You are not pausing your life in hopes that they return. You are evolving. You are becoming so focused, so disciplined, that by the time they realize what they lost, you won't even be the same person they walked away from. And that is when you win. You don't chase, you don't explain, you don't react, you disappear. And when they finally notice your absence, it will be too late. Become the one they'll never replace. This is the turning point, the moment when you stop looking back and start moving forward. Because now the focus is no longer on them, it's on you. You are no longer someone who waits, you are someone who builds. And when you commit to this path, you don't just heal, you transform. Most people stay stuck in the past, replaying memories, wondering if the person who left is thinking about them. But those who understand true power know that the best response is not words, not anger, not proving a point. It's self-reinvention. It's becoming a version of yourself so strong, so focused, that even if they saw you again, they wouldn't recognize the person standing before them. Think of the great legends, the warriors, the leaders. They didn't waste time mourning the past. They used every loss as fuel. They took pain and turned it into discipline. They took rejection and turned it into ambition. They became unstoppable. This is what you do now. Physically, you become disciplined, taking care of your body, refining your presence, walking with unshakable confidence. Mentally, you sharpen your mind, reading, learning, expanding your perspective, becoming someone who speaks with authority, not desperation. Financially, you become untouchable, stacking wealth, pursuing goals, building a future so strong that nothing and no one can take it from you. You build a life so fulfilling, so powerful, that the thought of them becomes an afterthought. And here's the secret most people never realize. Those who evolve become unforgettable. Nothing makes someone second-guess their decisions more than watching the person they left become everything they ever wanted. Not because you tried to impress them, but because you no longer need their validation. That is what creates attraction. That is what builds regret. Because when they walked away, they thought they were leaving the best version of you behind. But the truth is, they left before they could see the person you were about to become. And that's the irony. When you needed them, they were indifferent. But the moment you stop needing them, they start to notice. But this transformation isn't about them. It never was. This is about reclaiming your power. This is about becoming the kind of person who never needs to chase, who never begs, who never settles. Someone so focused on their own mission that others become an addition to their life, never the center of it. And that is what makes you unforgettable. Your past does not define you. Your pain does not break you. You are no longer someone who waits for another to come back. You are the one who moves forward, and that is why they will regret losing you. Become so unforgettable that they question everything. Imagine this. Months have passed. You are no longer the person they left behind. Your presence is sharper, your energy is undeniable. You walk differently, speak differently, move differently. There's no sadness in your eyes, no longing in your voice. You are unbothered, untouchable. And then they see you again. Maybe it's a random encounter. Maybe they come across a picture of you online. Maybe they hear about you through a friend. But in that moment, something shifts. Because the person standing before them is not the same one they once knew. You are better, stronger, bolder. And suddenly, the decision they made doesn't feel as certain as it once did. People are intuitive. They can sense when someone has leveled up. They can feel when someone no longer seeks their approval. And nothing is more magnetic, more irresistible than someone who has mastered detachment. Not because they're playing a game, but because they genuinely do not need validation anymore. They are too focused, too disciplined, too committed to their own path to be swayed by the past. This is the shift that changes everything. Because when someone realizes they no longer have control over your emotions, they start questioning everything. They wonder, did they make a mistake? Did they underestimate you? And here's the irony. When they walked away, they expected you to break. But instead, you became unbreakable. Look at history. The greatest transformations happen in silence. A king does not announce his rise. A warrior does not beg for recognition. they simply become. And that is your power. Because deep down, nothing haunts a person more than realizing they lost someone who became valuable after they left. But here's the key. You do not acknowledge their reaction. You do not seek validation in their regret. You remain indifferent. Because at this stage, you have already won. You have become the person you were always meant to be, and that, more than anything, is what makes you unforgettable. When they come back, you won't be the same. And then it happens. A message, a call, a casual, "Hey, how have you been?" out of nowhere. Maybe it takes weeks, maybe it takes months, but at some point, they reach out. Why? Because your absence created a void. Because your silence made them question everything. Because the person they thought they left behind no longer exists. Most people dream of this moment. They think, they finally see my worth. They finally regret leaving. And in their excitement, they make the fatal mistake. They rush back. But those who understand power do not react emotionally. They do not fall for nostalgia. They observe. Because here's the truth. They're not reaching out because they miss you. They're reaching out because they wonder if they still have access to you. They want to know, are you still the same? Do they still affect you? Do they still hold power over you? And the moment you respond with excitement, the moment you show them that their presence still moves you, you hand that power right back. This is where discipline matters. You remain cold, controlled, indifferent, because if they truly want to return, they must earn their place in your life again. The person you have become does not tolerate disrespect. They do not accept breadcrumbs. They do not lower their standards for someone who once walked away. And this is where most fail. They think the goal is to get them back. But the real goal, the real power, is knowing you don't need them back. Because you are no longer the one seeking validation. You are the one they now chase. And that is the ultimate shift. Take control. Will you let them return or walk away? You find yourself at a crossroads. The person who once left, who once doubted your value, now wants a way back into your life. Not long ago, you might have prayed for this moment. You might have replayed conversations in your head, wondering how to make them see your worth. But now that they're knocking on the door again, the question is no longer, do they want me? The question is, do I still want them? Most people spend endless nights hoping for that one message or call. They believe that if it comes, it means redemption, that love has finally proven itself. Yet there's a hidden danger in rushing back without thinking. If all you ever wanted was their approval, you risk handing your power right back into their hands. Ask yourself, has anything really changed, or are you simply relieved that they reached out? A Stoic approach demands more than just relief. It calls for reason over impulse. The Roman philosopher Epictetus said, "We suffer not from the events in our lives, but from our judgment about them." In other words, emotions can distort your perception. You might see their return as validation of your worth when, in reality, it could be a simple test of your availability. Are they coming back because they genuinely value who you've become, or because they fear losing the access they once had to you? Take a moment to consider what genuine change would look like. Have they taken responsibility for the past? Do they respect your boundaries and your growth? Or do they simply want the comfort of knowing they can still reach you when they're lonely? Your standards matter now more than ever. The person you've grown into does not exist to be a convenient option for someone else. Imagine you've built a fortress around your sense of self, a palace of discipline, independence, and self-respect. Not everyone deserves an invitation inside. You can offer the entry key, but only if they've proven themselves worthy. If you decide to let them back in simply because you crave their presence, you risk compromising everything you've worked to achieve. Instead, ask the tough questions. Do they align with the direction of my life? Do they add to my sense of purpose or distract from it? Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." Perhaps you attempted to get even, to show them what they missed out on. But true strength lies in becoming someone who chooses freely. You don't take them back out of spite or to prove a point. You either welcome them because they genuinely match your new standards, or you walk away with no anger, no resentment, just clarity. Some might worry, what if I regret letting them go? What if this was my last chance at reconciliation? But dwelling on what ifs creates a prison of indecision. You are no longer the person seeking approval. You are the one who decides if they even fit into your life's design. By trusting your own judgment, measured by logic and guided by self-worth, you rise above the grip of regret. On the other hand, if you do choose to let them back in, do it on your terms. Set clear expectations. If you've grown used to a routine of focus and discipline, make sure they respect that. Show that your time is precious. You won't bend your schedule or your values just to keep them around. Your path is not a doormat. It's a steady march forward. If they can't keep up, they'll have to step aside. When you come to that final decision, remember that the real victory was never in winning them back. It was in realizing you never needed them to feel whole. The power you hold is in your ability to either say, "Yes, you may join me if you've truly changed," or "No, my life has evolved beyond who we used to be." Whichever path you choose, make it yours, unburdened by fear, guided by self-respect, and forged by the knowledge that your worth does not hinge on their return. Your transformation is the proof of your power, and that power doesn't vanish just because they appeared again. You decide the terms, you decide the value, you decide who remains in your story. Whether you turn them away or accept them back, do it with the certainty that you are not dependent on anyone's presence. You are the one who creates meaning in your own life, and that is the ultimate freedom. When you let go, you rise above. You reach a moment where you realize they were never the prize. The real triumph lies in the person you've become, the individual who has mastered their emotions and emerged from heartbreak more resilient than ever. It isn't their regret or their return that matters. What truly counts is your evolution. Many people spend their days seeking validation, believing that love is about holding on, convincing someone to stay, or proving their worth. Yet those who embrace the power of detachment discover a deeper truth. Freedom lies in not being controlled by what you feel. Stoics throughout history have shared this wisdom. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. That strength is the root of detachment. It doesn't mean you shut down or stop caring. It means you refuse to let your emotions dictate your value. You stop letting someone else's presence or absence determine your self-worth. Instead, you stand firm in your own worth, whole and unbreakable. Imagine carrying a heavy chain around your neck, a chain forged by your need for someone else's approval. Every time you worry about what they think or how they feel about you, that chain tightens. Detachment is the key that unlocks that chain. When you drop it, you free yourself from the fear of losing them because you no longer believe they complete you. Instead, you see them as someone who can add to your life but never define it. A common question might arise, doesn't detachment mean I'll never experience true love? The answer lies in understanding that true love flourishes where there is freedom, not captivity. When you're so afraid of losing someone that you cling to them, you weaken yourself and stifle the relationship. But when you recognize that you can stand on your own, you create space for a healthier, more genuine connection if it ever happens again. In letting go, you paradoxically become more capable of loving honestly because you aren't grasping at what might slip through your fingers. Another doubt could be, what if they really do come back? Should I let them in? Detachment provides clarity. You can calmly evaluate whether they truly align with who you are now, or if they're simply returning out of curiosity or fear of losing you forever. Freedom through detachment means you have the ability to say yes or no based on who you've become, not who you used to be. You don't fall back into old patterns because the chains are gone. You see the situation clearly from a place of confidence rather than desperation. Imagine a castle built on a solid foundation. It remains standing through storms and earthquakes because every stone is placed with care. In the same way, you build your inner fortress by embracing your individuality, your goals, and your passions. Once that fortress is complete, no one can rattle it with fleeting words or false promises. People may try to knock on the gates of your life, but you decide who enters. That is the essence of power, having the ability to choose rather than being at the mercy of anyone else's decisions. The beautiful irony is that by no longer needing external validation, you often become more magnetic. When they see you standing tall, unshaken by their absence, curiosity stirs in them. Did I underestimate this person? But whether they experience regret or not is no longer your concern. Your focus shifts forward toward your own mission, unburdened by fear or longing. You move with purpose, knowing that your worth isn't tethered to another's approval. This is how heartbreak becomes lifelong power. You learn that the real victory was never about winning someone back, but about forging a stronger, wiser version of yourself in the face of loss. And once you taste the freedom of living for your own growth, you become truly unstoppable. You let go of the chains, and you rise above everything that once threatened to break you. You become the prize, someone whose value is evident whether anyone else recognizes it or not. And that is the ultimate form of strength. Stand above it all. Your future is unshakable. You've come a long way. You've faced heartbreak, tasted doubt, and stared loneliness in the eyes. But now you stand at the threshold of something far more powerful than the approval of anyone else. You stand at the edge of your own limitless potential. Imagine a lone mountain peak reaching above the clouds. From down below it seems distant, impossible. Yet step by step, with every ounce of resolve and discipline, you climb. And before you realize it, you're standing at the summit, breathing in the thin air of self-actualization, looking down on a world that once felt so overwhelming. This is where you finally understand. The only person who can truly limit you is you. People often underestimate how internal our battles really are. They believe that rejection or loss comes from external factors. Someone walked away, someone chose another path. But the true conflict is always within. You fight a silent war in your mind, battling the fear that you're not enough, that you won't recover, that you've lost the best thing you ever had. Over time, you realize that the outside world never truly shaped you. It only revealed what was already inside. A mind that clings to others for validation will crumble. A mind that feeds on self-respect will flourish. Consider how the blacksmith forges a sword. The steel is heated until it glows, hammered repeatedly, and then plunged into water to be tempered. Each swing of the hammer seems brutal, but it's necessary to drive out the impurities and shape the metal into something formidable. Your heartbreak was that fire. Your tears were the water that cooled the embers of pain, transforming you into a sharper, stronger version of yourself. Now you might wonder, what if they try to come back into my life again? Am I truly strong enough to say no, or at least require a higher standard? Strength isn't about slamming doors in everyone's face. It's about having the courage to open those doors only if they respect who you've become. You aren't waiting by a window, hoping for their shadow to appear in the moonlight. You're actively building the life you want, challenging your mind, forging new relationships, and solidifying your purpose. Another question arises: will I always feel this powerful? The answer depends on whether you continue nurturing the mindset you've developed. Power is an ongoing discipline. It's not a trophy you earn once and display on a shelf. It's a constant choice, a habit of refusing to let fleeting emotions run the show. Just like an athlete never stops training, someone who has awakened to their own value never stops practicing self-respect. You stay humble enough to keep learning, yet confident enough to know when to stand your ground. It's also natural to wonder if detachment means you'll never open your heart again. Detachment isn't about shutting off emotions. It's about controlling them rather than letting them control you. In fact, the more you understand your own worth, the more authentic your connections become. You won't settle for half measures. You'll only welcome those who meet you as an equal, respecting your boundaries and your growth. That's not isolation. That's a higher form of intimacy. Look at the journey you've taken. You went from doubting your own worth to realizing you are the prize. You stopped chasing validation from others and learned the art of standing on your own. You learned that heartbreak, while painful, can be an opening, a crack through which the light of self-realization shines. This light reveals the truth. Your life's mission is greater than the sum of any single relationship. Now picture yourself 1 year from today. Your posture straight, your eyes clear, your purpose unwavering. The storm that once rocked your world has passed, and you're still here, stronger, wiser, unshakable. And the best part? This is only the beginning of what you can become. You don't need to ask anyone else for permission to climb higher. You don't need to ask for a hand to hold. You choose how you move forward. You choose who stands beside you. In that freedom lies your true power.